Happy 2023, everybody. Welcome to Watches with Dennis. And though I probably should have done this at the end of 2022, we're in the first week here. So let me go ahead and give you 5 predictions for 2023 that I think we're going to see in watches. And actually, let me rephrase that a little bit more even and say I'm going to give you 5 company predictions. And then I want to do 2 really just sort of broad-based watch hobbyist, consumer experience sort of theories, really manufacturer oriented, but not specific to a particular company. These are all basically blind guesses. I don't have any insider sources or background stuff that makes me think any of these are particularly likely. I think some are more likely than others, but let's go ahead and start with the big dog, which would be Rolex. And my prediction for 2023 will be regarding the Milgauss. Now, it seems like ever since I got involved in the hobby, there has always been a theory that I hear every year that Milgauss will be discontinued. Rolex is going to set it aside for a few years, and then they're going to bring it back, and it'll be revised in some capacity. I think this year, Rolex does come out with a new Milgauss. I do not think they discontinue it. I think they're just going to launch a new iteration. I think in terms of what are they going to do, the most likely change will be a dial color variation. I also think it's possible that Rolex might change its case size. It won't be something that's, wildly different than anything else that's already available out there, but I could see them going ahead and saying maybe they'll bump the size up. Rolex has tended to really lean a lot, it seems, towards size increases, though obviously the original Explorer, or commonly known as the Explorer 1, did see a size decrease recently, but so I think a case change is a possibility on the Milgauss, but if nothing else, I do think we will see a new dial color variation and probably the retirement of the 2 current dials that are available. The next company I want to move on to is Seiko, another really big dog in the industry. And this is going to be a prediction on King Seiko. Now, when the King Seiko lineup was revealed, I think there was a lot of initial interest. The problem that almost everyone I know has with the new King Seikos is the price point is pretty high for the pretty low-end movement that they're operating on. Those new King Seikos use the 6R31 movement, and my thought is Seiko can solve this problem in one of 2 ways. They either lower the price of the King Seiko, or they change the movement to a more prestigious, more accurate movement than what's currently being used. I don't think Seiko lowers the price point. I think Seiko has got a vision in mind with where they want all their various flavors of watches. And I'm talking beyond like Grand Seiko being its own company, but rather like Prospex and Seiko 5 and the tiers within Seiko proper. And so I think they've staked out exactly where they think King Seiko should be. And thus, if they're not going to lower the price, I think that the only other alternative would be for them to change the movement. And I do think that there's a good chance that they will change the movement this year. They may go ahead and do new dial color variations and such along with that, so that people who bought the King Seiko already don't feel like, oh, well, this is just a better movement version than what I got stuck with. So I do think they'd mix some other things up some more, but I think it's the complaints about the movement that will motivate any change that they do on King Seiko. I don't have a prediction on the type of movement they will use. I don't think they would create a whole new movement. I do not think that Seiko is interested in making high beat movements, so 5 hertz or faster movements for King Seiko, even though back in the day, the King Seikos I was most familiar with in terms of the vintage ones are the high beat ones. Like they really staked out a lot on the having 5 hertz watches way back when. I don't think they're going to go that route, but I think this plus 25 to minus 15 seconds per day 6R31 movement is just way too low grade for a watch that costs as much as the King Seiko does. And I think Seiko will take steps in 2023 to rectify that. Okay, company number 3, Tag Heuer. Pretty simple prediction. I feel pretty confident about this one. I think we're going to see yet another Mario watch. Yes, we just recently, this last year, 2022, we saw the Mario Kart inspired watches. They had the Tourbillon version and they had the lower end version. And then before that, there was a smartwatch Mario watch. I think we see another traditional mechanical Mario watch come out. I have no idea what. Maybe a diver like a Aqua Racer style, and it'll be themed around Mario's swimming levels in the original Super Mario Brothers or something like that. That's my prediction. Won't go that far, but I do think that Tag likes what's going on with the response to the Mario watches. If you are hoping for a mass-produced, non-limited Mario watch, I do not think they do it. I think they're going to continue to use these as limited editions, sell them out right away, and just help generate hype for Tag Heuer as a brand because people are going to know to watch them because they keep wanting to get the latest Mario watch. So it's just a collaboration I think is paying dividends for Tag. They're luxury, but they're on the lower end, like entry level luxury sort of brand by and large. And so I don't think they get tarnished with the same brush that Audemars Piguet does, for example, because of the Black Panther collaboration. I think Tag doesn't look too tacky for them to do a video game collaboration, but obviously they're viewed as a step above, say, a Casio collaboration. So it's for those reasons that I think they're going to continue to milk the Mario cart until the cart has no more milk to give. I don't think automotive and milk really mix. Oh no, I think isn't there a race where they celebrate by drinking milk at the end? I don't know. I don't watch racing, but we'll say that's true, and we'll move on to company number 4. That'll be Omega. Now, I think safe predictions would be they're going to release some sort of a limited edition Speedmaster. They're going to release some sort of limited edition Seamaster, probably multiple iterations. That's a little boring, right? So to be a little more daring, my prediction for 2023 is Omega will release another manual wind watch. So in 2022, the kind of sleeper hit, I guess we could say, was Omega's CK859. That was powered by the caliber 8926. So it was the coaxial movement, but it was a hand wind movement. And that watch, was sort of a dress watch. It wasn't limited per se, but partway through the year, Omega then said they weren't going to make any more of them. They just sort of immediately discontinued it. I think that did help spike demand on the watch, but even when the watch was first revealed, I think a lot of people found it very, very attractive. Outside of chronographs, I can't really think of any other Omega watches that really offered you a no date. And especially I can't think of any other watches that would offer you hand wind. So the manual wind movement, I think the 8926 is going to be seen in another probably dress style watch. I don't think it will necessarily look exactly like the CK859 does, but I think it'll be in that sort of spirit, that sort of vintage-esque spirit. Probably not something dramatically different. I think, again, if you're going hand wind, you're going to want it to look older just by design choice. But I think Omega's onto something there, and I think they're going to want to go ahead and explore doing something with that movement again along the lines of the CK859. And my 5th and final company prediction I want to make is on Tudor. This one I also feel pretty confident about. One of the, I guess, big reveals to a lot of people was their later in the year announcement of the Pelagos 39. And I think a lot of people really responded to that. There's been a lot of demand for the more tooly dive watch in Tudor's catalog, which is the Pelagos, versus the Black Bay, which I think people saw as more of a designer dive watch, even though the specs in and of itself are significantly robust enough for most casual diving. And the Pelagos has actually seen its stats downgraded on some of their models in order to better suit consumer tastes with the sizing and such. I don't think anything bold here. I think it's just going to be another dial color variant. I'd love to be able to give you a prediction that they might do something kind of taking a page out of Doxa and doing something orange. But quite bluntly, the Pelagos 39 is in black. I think they're going to do it in blue. And I think it's going to go gangbusters. So a pretty simple, straightforward prediction. But I am getting pretty specific on it. So I'll go ahead and say that's my 5th and final company prediction. Now, I want to end the video with a couple of just broad-based industry predictions that relate to us as hobbyists. One is, I think, well, obviously not going away completely, because even when I was talking about Omega, I mentioned sort of that vintage-esque inspiration that I would imagine their next hand wind will be in the vein of the CK859. I do think we see a significant reduction in the number of back catalog watches that companies are going to roll out with. I think they're going to lean more towards doing newer, innovative, or if not innovative, just fresher designs. And it's not that people are tired of vintage looking watches, but I think that crutch to kind of say we're going to rely on the back catalog, it's been very, very successful for a lot of companies. Breitling has really been doing it a lot lately. I think Zenith found a lot of success doing it a lot lately. And of course, we've seen a whole host of other companies, including micro brands that just look to the past and pull up some sort of basic homage to a skin diver and say, here you go, this is going to be our first offering. It's been successful, but the market's very saturated with choice right now in those sort of modern interpretations of vintage designs. And I just don't think it's enough anymore to turn things out. Even a company like Tudor, which will not surprise me to do something in the Black Bay lineup. They don't move, they don't inspire in the same way that they did 3 or 4 years ago. And I think that's just because, things are cyclic, things change, and we're rotating past this desire of looking directly to those historic sort of watches. They'll still do them. I just think we're going to see fewer of them in 2023 than we did in 2022. And the second prediction on the industry as a whole really ties to that. And that's because given the recessionary behavior that we're seeing with the stock markets, we all know about the collapse of crypto after the first quarter of 2022. And we're not really expecting to see a lot of improvements because inflation is still a major problem in a lot of countries here at the start of 2023. All of that is to say that I think watch companies are going to really have to work a lot harder now to earn money. They're going to have to really sell their products to people. It's not like it was with watches in 2020 and 2021 in particular, and also the start of 2022. It's important to remember things were crazy like January, February, March of 2022. I don't think it's going to be like that anymore, where it's so hard to get anything popular at least, that secondhand trading prices were getting just outright goofy. It was real easy to sell watches at or above what you bought them for. And we saw this in other hobbies as well outside of watches. But I think those times are done. Outside of a few hype pieces, there are still pieces that will remain hype pieces. I don't think the Instagram culture has completely gone away. But with these shifts in terms of behaviors because of the conclusion of the emergency control measures related to the pandemic, people are traveling more. There's more competition for people's dollars. And then the aforementioned challenges, recessionary, inflation-wise, and other economic factors that mean people have less disposable income to spend anyway. I think those two things combined mean watch companies now can't just rely on people sitting at home all day, having nothing else to do, and so they just buy and order things that they can collect easily from home. We're moving past that now. I think a lot of companies that have been producing as many watches as they could, and we're actually seeing them sell for a while, are going to start to have surpluses that are going to hit the gray market. Breitling historically has been pretty guilty of this, and I think they still turn out a lot of watches. I think Zenith got away for a while with pulling out back catalog stuff and actually seeing a lot of success with it, like their Chronomaster lines and such. And I think those are actually going to be overproduced at this point, and we're going to start to see things like that just sort of hit the market. There's just a lot of demand, and it was a bubble, and that bubble has burst. And so my prediction for 2023 is that these watches that we see, in part why they won't just turn to the back catalog anymore, is I think the companies know this by and large. I think they're aware that they're going to have to work a lot harder to make sales. And so I think you're going to see them actually try harder than they did last year, which I think is a good thing. But anyway, those are my predictions for 2023. What do you all think? Do you have your own predictions? Go ahead and comment on the video in the comment section with your thoughts. Or if you have thoughts about any of my predictions, I'd love to read your comments about those. And other than that, if you enjoyed the video, please do give it a like. And I will talk to everyone on the next one. Take care.